number 1. As they come down the flag in the first turn. 2,000 metres they can go. Right over the Melbourne Cup.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Network 10's special preview of the 139th running of the Foster's Melbourne Cup, the great race that will stop the nation on Tuesday afternoon. And a special welcome to viewers through TV3 in New Zealand and also throughout the United States of America, joining us for the first time for our preview of the great race. Well, what a dramatic day we had at Flemington yesterday. Derby Day in front of a record crowd. We're going to talk more about that now with our illustrious panel. We assemble them right here in this studio every Sunday before the Melbourne Cup. And the main reason is we can't get rid of them. They keep coming back. Jenny Chapman, Richard Friedman, John Letts. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Pete.
Thanks very much.
Oh, that's okay. Jen, it was a dramatic Derby Day yesterday in front of a record crowd again.
Oh, it sure was. With the all the drama of that protest, Shogun Lodge throwing in the protest against the winner, Blackfriars. And I think the right result was there because Blackfriars went on, he was holding his ground towards the end, and Shogun Lodge had just died on his run a little bit.
Yeah, the more I looked at the replay last night, the more I think the stewards made the right decision. But the drama didn't stop there, Rich, because Tie the Knot really threw Melbourne Cup calculations up in the air when he finished back in the field and Rogan Josh won the McKinnon Stakes.
Yes, and I think Tie the Knot's like 1 from 11 now in Melbourne, and I think he saves a few of his worst runs for the Flemington course. So, you know, that's thrown a bit of confusion into it.
Johnny Letts, the track was in magnificent condition yesterday.
Fantastic yesterday, and we saw Fire Rain run 1-7 for the 1200. Magnificent.
Well, last night at Flemington, after the conclusion of the racing, they had the barrier draw for the Foster's Melbourne Cup of 1999. Marbles coming out of the bin from Mr Des Gleeson, the chairman of stewards, and some people were happy and some were not so happy, as is always the case with barrier draws. They only had themselves to blame, though, because they came forward and drew the little cups with the numbers on them, and then they had a rather unique way of displaying the barrier draw. They actually put the jockeys in the barriers out there at Flemington last night, and let's have a look at what they came up with. Tie the Knot, well, as if he didn't have enough things against him, he's got barrier number 15, which is not good for him, but Sky Heights. I don't think you could have asked for more, barrier 1.
No, well, that's the best draw you can get, no doubt about that. Obviously, it's going to depend on whether or not they're racing very tight. He's going to be just off the pace. And, you know, if they're tight and he doesn't get a lot of luck, that's probably, you know, going to beat him, that's all. 2
of the imports drawing wide, Central Park and Yavanas Pace. The other one, Travel May, drawing beautifully in 7. Let's take a look at the next lot of horses. Skybo, the Message, Streak Lahar second coming. Ablemaster, Behemoth and Figurehead. Figurehead will have to come from the outside, just as Doremus did a few years ago, Rich. And then we go on to Rogan Josh, Laybeel. They've both drawn very wide, Johnny Letts. That's not going to help them.
That's not going to help them, Pete, but there's a good percentage of winners do come from the outside gate in the Melbourne Cup.
Now, 3,200 metres is the journey, so they'll have a 900-metre run down to the winning post the first time. Let's see, you've ridden in Melbourne Cups many times before. It is a long run, but you can get posted out wide.
Well, the main thing is to get your position quickly, Peter, and then have a nice cushy run. I think one of the greatest riders that ever rode in the Melbourne Cup was Harry White, and if we watched him over the years, he just put him to sleep straight away. Good position in the race, challenged at the right time, and this is what Rogan Josh, I mean, it's going to be a worry 21, but he seemed yesterday as he's very tractable in the run, and Johnny Marshall was very happy with his run.
Well, Guy Walter wasn't quite as happy with Tie the Knot after the McKinnon Stakes yesterday. He will run in the race at this stage, Guy Walter. We've been in contact with him this morning. He says, yes, he'll run, and yes, he will carry blinkers. Shane Dye was, well, he was a disappointed man. He was quite angry with a few people yesterday. Barrier 15, 58 kilos, 13 wins from 37 starts. Looking at the recent performances, Jen, before yesterday, he'd done everything right leading up to the Melbourne Cup.
Oh, look, you couldn't have been more happy with him, that's for sure, Peter. He's a terrific stayer. Unfortunately, for the connections yesterday, it was a disappointing run. The blinkers do go on.
If you go on this run...
Well, this is his Cox Plate run, and there he is, making ground as he always does. He always gets back in his races. He runs on very strongly. He can hang, and that is a concern.
Yeah, look at him there.
Yeah, you can see he's hanging in there. Well, he's hanging out yesterday, so if he can improve, good horses, I always believe that you've got to forgive them for one bad run.
Well, as I said, Guy Walter was a very disappointed man, and I caught up with him yesterday at Flemington straight after the Louis Vuitton McKinnon Stakes.
Yes, well, I was disappointed with him, Peter. I mean, I think he's obviously looking for further now, and he ran a flat race in this race last year and then ran very well in the Melbourne Cup, but the pace was on today, and I felt that he should have run on a lot better at the finish. And I was very concerned. Shane said he wanted to hang during the race. So we'll just monitor him over the next 24 hours and see how he is.
No knocks and bruises on him when he came back.
No,
He's okay?
He seems okay. We'll see how he is the next 24 hours. He's backing up a week after Cox Plate. I'm sure he is looking for further, but I would have thought he'd run a much better race than that.
I think we all did yesterday at Flemington. Rich, can we forgive him for that bad one, as Jen suggested, or was it just too bad?
Well, you can forgive him. I mean, he's a great horse, and they will put in a bluey every now and again, but it's getting a little close to the race to be forgiving too much, you know. If you had another week up your sleeve or some, you know, some period of time where you might be able to change his mind or fix some physical problem that he's got, that might be something, but 3 days before a big race, gee, it's hard to forgive them then.
Well, this time last week we were talking about the Godolphin stable walking away with the Foster's Melbourne Cup. They might still do it, but it'll have to be with a different horse. Number 2, Central Park, with the injury to Kaif Tara. Saeed Bin Sarur is the trainer, and wouldn't Frankie Dettori love to prove himself by winning the Foster's Melbourne Cup? Barrier 19, not well off at the gate, 57.5 kilos, 6 wins from 15 starts. And as we take a look at his recent performances, we know that he hasn't been the trip before, and isn't it great to see these overseas raiders taking part in our great Melbourne Cup, Rich?
Well, yes, you know, I have a different opinion on those sort of things. But
why?
Well, you know, we'll get into that later. It's a long-winded argument, but never mind.
Nice horse, isn't he?
He is a lovely horse, and he's been used as a pacemaker at his last couple of runs, so that's why he hasn't really shown up at his last 2 starts. But before that, he won in Italy over 2,000 metres, and then he ran 4th in the Dubai World Cup to Al Mutawakil, and that sort of form is...
Beautifully said, by the way, too.
Yeah, sort of, as always.
Yes. That's the way he was talking at about 7 o'clock last night, too.
But it's, you know, the form is there if you go back far enough. Just recently he's been used as a pacemaker. But, look, I don't like stallions coming from the Northern Hemisphere. I like the geldings coming down here. I think they've got a better record, but he's not out without his chance, but Barrier 19 is going to make it mighty tough.
Well, he might be out wide, but over against the rail is the favourite. Sky Heights, number 3. Damien Oliver will give him a beautiful ride. It would cap off a great career for Colin Alderson, the trainer. 56.5 kilos. He's won 7 of 17, and Johnny Letts, he has done everything right in his preparations leading up to this race. We'll take a look at those form lines now, and the 3rd in the Cox Plate was a beauty after a great win in the Caulfield Cup.
Enormous run, Pete, and he is a horse that he just digs so deep when the pressure's put on him, and we've seen him time and time again, and you'll see him here when Damien, the horse, comes up alongside him, the 2nd place getter, and crowds him a little bit. Damien puts the whip away and carries him to the line, but on the line he was just holding the other horse, and he's going to be very hard to beat. Any race he competes in, this horse, he's hard to beat. It doesn't matter if it's from 1,600 to 2 miles. He's always very hard to beat, and there he is, puts his head out again.
Yeah, look at him. He just lifted that horse over the line, didn't he? He really just picked him up and lifted him.
And you know, when you get a jockey like Damien riding him too, Pete, Damien likes riding the horse, doesn't he?
It'll be the first time Damien's had well, nearly the first time Damien's ridden a chance in a Melbourne Cup that's drawn a good alley. He's had a shocking run of drawing the outside alleys, and he's actually won a Melbourne Cup from the outside gate, but he'll be looking forward to riding this horse from a good gate.
And he might very well become the 4th horse in the 90s to win the Caulfield Melbourne Cup double. It was something that was so hard to do in racing for so many years, and then we've just had a rush of them in the 90s.
The form has always, oh, not always, but yes, recently has been fantastic out of the Caulfield Cup for the Melbourne Cup.
And I've got a reason for that.
Why?
I reckon that is because they've changed the conditions of the race insofar as they weight the good horses a lot more leniently. So these horses that are capable of winning both cups are getting in lighter.
We're going to be talking to Mark Johnston, by the way, a little bit later in the program, who came out here with Double Trigger a couple of years ago and failed, and I think that's him on the phone now, actually, so we'll just get that organised. And Mark Johnston will be joining us a little bit later on in our special preview of the Foster's Melbourne Cup for 1999, and we'll be back to take a look at more of the horses after this break.
Over 137 years, it has captured the heart and soul of all Australians. It's the biggest, most prestigious event in our sporting calendar. Yet, it's beyond sport. It's a tradition steeped in our blood. Only one network can bring you all the emotion of history in the making. The 1999 Melbourne Cup Day, live and exclusive, starts 10 a.m. Tuesday on 10.
Some of the great sights from Derby Day yesterday at Flemington, the first day of the Melbourne Cup Carnival of 1999, and you're watching our special preview throughout Australia, New Zealand and the United States of America, and we just have some business to attend to here. Hand it over.
How much?
It was your phone, 50.
50?
$50 fine for Richard Friedman, and
a phone call.
And that goes into consolidated revenue for the Champagne Bar at Flemington tomorrow night.
That's ordinary.
You might be able to get it back on Marriedpoor, you never know. He's one of the imported gallopers. He's now trained by Michael Moroney to be ridden by Stephen Arnold. He's got a nice gate, barrier 4, 55 kilos. He's won 3 of 12, but Jen G, it's hard to have him on the Caulfield Cup performance.
It sure is. He didn't do enough in that for mine, Peter, and I think you'd be keeping your 50 in your pocket with Marriedpoor. I've seen a lot of his overseas races. He's thereabouts, but he's just not got enough resolution for me, particularly over the 3,200 metres. And, you know, at best, I'd say a place chance.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. I don't know whether his owner, Gerard Peterson, would be lacking any confidence. Last night at the barrier draw, he spoke with Mark Aston.
How do you feel about gate number 4? Absolutely ecstatic. It's just perfect. We want to lead or trail in the Cup, and it just gives us all the options to go forward. It's fantastic.
Is he going to be suited by Flemington?
I think so. He's used to running on the big courses in England, and Flemington should suit him down at the ground.
You give him a great chance?
I do, yeah. I think he's a great horse. He's had 3 wins over 2 miles in England, and he's just suited to Flemington and the distance, so we give him a great hope.
Yes, good luck to Gerard Peterson and the connections of Marriedpoor, and I've got a feeling they're going to need it.
Well, they might. I mean, you can go back to a run, I think it was about 12 months ago, oh no, even more, 14 months ago, and he did have a third against Persian Punch there, but he did have every chance as well. All
right, on to John Hawkes, runner number 5 here, Arena, and it is to be ridden by Darren Gauci, barrier 16, and has won 6 of 26. Nice weight, 54.5 for a Derby winner, and his recent performances, well, I thought the run in the McKinnon Stakes yesterday was quite good, Rich.
He ground home like a real stayer in that race. He's going to appreciate the extra distance. I don't think his form's been flash, you know, over the last few starts, but...
You can forget the Caulfield Cup run, though, because he came out on his head in the Caulfield Cup. He knuckled over really badly.
Yeah, he didn't have much luck. Look, he's one of the ones that's there with a chance, you know, son of Danehill, big, strong horse. You know, I can see him running a good race there. It's just a matter of whether he switches on. He has won at Flemington. He won a Derby here last year at this time. So, you know, he's a good chance.
Let's go on to the next of the international raiders, and it is number 6, Yavana's Pace, to be trained by Mark Johnston, ridden by Richard Hughes. Barrier number 18, he'll carry 53.5 kilos. Can get up on his toes a bit, this horse. He's won 11 from 41, and taking a look at his recent performances, well, the best of those performances was when he was runner-up behind Kaif Tara in the Irish St Leger at the Curragh. And joining us from Sandown this afternoon is Yavana's Pace's trainer, Mark Johnston. Mark, good afternoon to you. Welcome back to Australia.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, after Double Trigger's failure here a few years ago, is it a burning ambition of yours to win the Melbourne Cup?
That's a two-edged sword in some ways. You know, on the one hand, it sort of fired my ambition to win the race. On the other hand, it frightened me off quite a bit. You know, it was hard to persuade an owner or to ask an owner to spend £50,000 to come back for what I know is such a tough race.
How would you compare this horse, Yavana's Pace, to Double Trigger?
It's very, very difficult to compare them. They're completely different types of horses. I don't think anybody in Australia really appreciates what a good stayer Double Trigger was at home. He's perhaps one of the best this century. He won 12 stakes races and never ran out of stakes company from the time he won his maiden until the time he retired. Yavana's Pace is a handicapper who's risen through the ranks and has only started running in group races in his last 2 starts, when he ran in the Irish Ledger and prior to that won a Group 3 at Epsom. So they're very, very different types of horses. This horse is much more like Quick Ransom, the horse that I brought the year before Double Trigger.
Of course, apart from having ability, the horse has to acclimatise too. Has he settled in well since he's been at Sandown?
He seems to have settled in well, and I think I've learned a lot about international travel, and I've done things a bit differently, but I can't get away from the fact that in the run-up to the race, most of Australia thought Double Trigger was very well as well, and he was still a short price favourite. So I've got no illusions about how these bubbles can burst.
Mark, thanks for your time this afternoon. The best of luck for Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
Mark Johnston, the trainer of Yavana's Pace in the Foster's Melbourne Cup, and interesting to hear him mention Quick Ransom there, because the Freedman's actually trained Quick Ransom.
He stayed in the country, and we had a bit of fun with Quick Ransom for quite some time after Mark left. So owe Mark a bit of a debt of gratitude there.
Yeah. Lexi, is Yavanis Pace and these other horses a prime example that it's not necessarily the best horse that comes out from overseas and wins our great race, it's the one that acclimatises as well?
Pete, this year I was looking at the Melbourne Cup the other night, and exactly what you said then. I think the luckiest horse is going to win the Melbourne Cup this year, not the best horse. I really feel, I'm looking through the field and going through and you think the horse that has the lucky run, like Richard just said, Arena's in there with a chance. Now, if Arena has a good run, he's quite capable of winning the Melbourne Cup. Yavanis Pride, look, honestly, he's an 8-year-old, hasn't raced since the 18th of September. He's got a job ahead of him.
Yeah, and he gets a bit fizzed up at the races too. I think they're actually not going to parade him when the horses normally come out and go in order, saddlecloth order when they go onto the track. I think he's going to go straight up to the gates because he can get very nervous about the whole thing.
I don't think he's the roughest, you know. I don't think he's the roughest. I've seen a lot of his tapes. He's a horse that will go up. He'll probably be right on the pace, Peter, and he's going to give a bit of a sight for a long way. I
think you better have a chat to Richard about these overseas horses because you appear to be in love with them and you're dismissing the local horses.
No, I am not at all.
Well,
Definitely
what about behind, number 7? Has it got a chance? We'll have a look at the facts and figures first of all. Peter Hayes is the trainer. Jim Cassidy is the rider. Beautiful draw in barrier 2. 1-5 of 23, including an Adelaide Cup in there, going back a couple of years ago, or about 18 months ago. And his recent performances, probably starting to find a little bit of form with that second in the Perrier. 8th in the Caulfield Cup wasn't hopeless, but Jen, he was my Melbourne Cup tip last year all along until he sort of went off just in the week or so before the race.
Yes, he's a little tricky to catch, isn't he, the hind?
Yeah.
But Jim Cassidy on board here, that's going to help. And I didn't mind his run in the Caulfield Cup. I thought he was making good ground, and he's a horse that if he gets the breaks and if there's good pace on early, he'll be running on at the end.
Can either of you two make a case for the hind?
I think he's one of those stayers. Is a good handicap stayer, but I'm not sure that's the sort of horse that wins the Melbourne Cup anymore. I think it's a horse that can put together some weight for age form, and you know, he hasn't been able to do that recently. So you know, he's not in my top picks, but I can make a case for him if he gets a lot of luck.
Just before we go to the break, you seem a bit subdued today. What time did you leave the marquee last night?
Late.
Pete, actually, Pete, the hind actually pulled up with an injury after the Melbourne Cup last year in his back. So there might be an excuse there, but he is a 2-mile winner in Adelaide, and the Adelaide Cup was a terrific win.
All right, well, we've got 7 down and 17 to go. You're watching Network 10's special preview of the 1999 Foster's Melbourne Cup, and we'll be back with more in just a moment. It's Australia's biggest party of the year, and it all got underway at Flemington yesterday and continues with our great day, the Foster's Melbourne Cup, on Tuesday. And we're down to one of the overseas riders, another one of them, in Travel Mate number 8. And this horse is trained by James Fanshawe, who's got a few superstitions. We won't be talking to him on Tuesday before the race. He won't do any interviews on the day. After the race might be a different matter, though. David Harrison is the jockey, a Hong Kong-based jockey. Barrier 7, 52.5 kilos, has won 5 of 15. Now, as we take a look at the facts and figures from his recent performances, they probably don't mean too much to us, but significantly, Richie's been over the trip before.
Well, he has, and the Tote Ebor and the Northumberland Plate are both good races over there. He hasn't carried a weight this light since 1997, this horse, so he's well in at the handicaps, and I think there are plenty of people who work that out from the Northern Hemisphere because he's been very well backed, this horse. He's actually my tip of the European horses to do the job. I think this is the one, and from barrier 7, he's going to get, you know, a good run in the race, and he'll run the distance right out. So I really put this horse in with a chance.
Tell us something about the rider, Jen.
Yes, David Harrison. Well, he's a jockey that normally is in the right place at the right time. He's one of those. He won the Derby over in Hong Kong as well. He's a good rider. He is a good rider, and I think Travel Mate's got a terrific chance in this. With his tapes that I've seen of him, he can handle all the hustle and bustle of big fields around him, and I think he's going to sit around about midfield, and if he gets any luck at all, he'll be hard to beat.
There you go. Jen's in love with the overseas horses, as I told you. On to 9, Skybo. He's a local, but I think he might need a bit of a start after his performance yesterday. Len Smith, the trainer. Larry Cassidy is the jockey. Barrier 11, 52 kilos. He's been a grand old campaigner, 7 wins from 58 starts, a former place getter in the Melbourne Cup, but his recent performances, let's see, including the run at Flemington yesterday, indicate that he's got a big task ahead of him.
Yeah, very big task ahead of him, Pete, and this is his 4th try at the Melbourne Cup.
He's had more tries than Alf Langan.
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
Actually, he's been a bit unlucky in a few of those.
He has been a bit unlucky in the Melbourne Cup. A couple of times he was unlucky in the Melbourne Cup, but I mean, he's getting older now, and I think getting older and getting a little bit slower.
Yep. And another horse that's got the job ahead of him, judging by recent performances, is number 10, The Message. She's been in a few big races. They've sent him around. John Ralph is the trainer, Aaron Spiteri the jockey. Barrier 12, 52 kilos, 6 wins from 35 starts. And, well, he has been racing in the top company, and we're going to have a look at the last 3 performances. Finished 7th in the Cox Plate. That was only in a small field. 6th in the Yalumba. 4th in the Turnbull. Wasn't a bad sort of effort, but, Jen, it's hard to see him doing much here.
It is. I think, you know, in his younger days, he was a very, very promising youngster. He has been disappointing since arriving here in Melbourne, so that's the only concern. I think he's a capable horse if he was to get it right on the day, but he hasn't shown enough. Not yet, anyway.
They may as well run him because you can't win the Melbourne Cup sitting at home in your box, can you?
No, that's for sure.
And Street won't be sitting at home in his box. He will be out there trying, and I reckon he's got a terrific each-way hope, despite the wide gate 17, trained by Robert Smurden and Gregory Michael Hall, who's already won a Melbourne Cup aboard the mighty Sub-Zero back in '92. 7 wins from 26. He's got a lovely weight, 51.5 kilos, and his recent performances, especially the win in the Moonee Valley Cup, indicated that he is a horse running into his best form. The only worry, Rich, is the Moonee Valley form. Sometimes it can be a bit different.
Moonee Valley track surface, very, very different to the surface he's going to find at Flemington, and he obviously liked that surface because he bolted in at Moonee Valley. But his form has been consistent across the board at a variation of tracks, so I don't discount him. From barrier 17, he's going to be a difficult ride from out there, but Gregory Michael Hall, in a big race, he rides them, he saves his best for the big races, Greg Hall, so I expect a good run from him.
I think it's Robert Smurden's first runner in the Cup too.
Could be, yeah. I'll ask you an easy question now. Do you reckon there's any chance that we'll get Hawley to shut up if he wins?
That'll be... no, that's a Herculean task. That's beyond all of us.
Absolutely impossible. Another one of the roughies is number 12, Lahar. It's trained by Paul Cave and will be ridden by Corey Brown. Barrier number 8, 50.5 kilos, 5 wins from 38 starts. Recent performances, really nothing too much to write home about, and we're going to look at those now. Finished down the back in the Cox Plate, in the middle of the field in the Caulfield Cup. 8th in the Epsom wasn't hopeless because it was a blanket finish, Johnny Letts.
Yes, Pete, but I think Lahar might struggle a little bit in the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, I can't have Lahar either. It's one of the ones I've put in as the can't win class.
Jen?
No, I'm not that keen on Lahar.
So for those of you who like Lahar, sorry about that, Chief. Let's move on to number 13, Second Coming, the Derby winner from 2 years ago. Michael Moroney is the trainer, and Greg Childs, well, he's having a reasonable trot at the moment, really, isn't he? WS Cox Plate and the AAMI Victoria Derby in the space of 7 days. 9 gate is a nice one, 50.5 kilos, 5 wins from 34 starts. He needs to be on top of the ground. He showed that when he won the Naturalism at Sandown, and that was a pretty good performance, and we're going to have a look at the last 3 performances. And that win at Sandown was pretty good. Then 5th in the Perrier was OK, 3rd in the Moonee Valley Cup was all right. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I think you're summing it up quite well there, Peter. It's sort of OK form.
Yeah.
You know, he's a Derby winner from 1997. Whether or not his form is good enough, I just doubt. I'd give him a place chance. You know he's going to be up there and probably out of trouble.
He is going to be up the front of the field, no doubt about that. And last night at the barrier draw, Mark Oaston caught up with one of his owners, Philip Lindbergh.
Well, Philip, Second Coming drew 9. How do you feel about that?
Well, I was pretty happy on the basis that we need to be near the front, and I'm sure we will be. So to make sure we got to a good barrier draw was very important. I was the one under pressure, and I didn't have to do anything. So I was very happy to get 9, and on that basis, I think we're a real lightweight chance in the Cup.
And significantly, he's got number 13 again. 13 Saddlecloth.
He's got 13 Saddlecloth, and he's got Greg Childs. So if you ever thought of a Second Coming, Childs rode us in the Derby. We won the Derby, number 13 in the Derby, and we got Greg back on board. So who knows?
There's an amazing coincidence. Do you believe in omens?
No.
Not really.
Sorry, I mentioned it. There you go. So there are the chances of Second Coming in the Foster's Melbourne Cup. Well, shortly we're going to be taking a look at a trainer who has won the Melbourne Cup 10 times, and we're going to be taking a look at another trainer who has a couple of runners, and he may very well be the only Melbourne Cup trainer to retire after winning the Melbourne Cup. That's all coming up on our special preview of the Foster's Melbourne Cup of '99. Yes, the Milliners certainly do pretty well out of Melbourne Cup week, and so do the champagne sales. They were going in full swing when Jen and I visited the Champagne Bar after the running of the last race yesterday.
We didn't even have a champagne there. We had a beer though.
Yeah, we had a brown lemonade, and it was very pleasant too after 7 hours on the telly. Let's go on with our preview, and we've come to number 14, Able Master, to be ridden by Grant Cooksley for Bruce Wallace, who of course had Darazari in the Melbourne Cup last year. 50 kilos, barrier number 6. Just the 2 wins from 16 starts, so win number 3 in a career, if it was the Melbourne Cup, wouldn't be a bad one. 5th in the Moonee Valley Cup was a pretty good run, and then 2nd in the Metrop was a very good staying effort over 2,600 metres. Rich?
Yeah, I have to say the Metropolitan form has probably proved to be substandard. The horses that beat him home have not done anything since.
Yeah, Vitaman was the one that won the race.
And Miss Danehill, they're all around him there, and that form hasn't been good enough. So I have a suspicion that he's not up to this. He's drawn a nice gate. His form's been consistent without setting the world on fire, so, you know, let's leave it at that. He's another one that I really don't think can win the race. Well,
the owners of Second Coming were talking about omens. Here's one. In 1965, Light Fingers had the 14 saddlecloth and the 6 barrier, I think it is, and that's exactly what Able Master's got. I think that's clutching at straws, though.
Yeah, I think you're doing a good job.
Yeah, well, I'm the best at that. Bohemia's number 15, Johnny Sadler. Well, he may very well retire as a Melbourne Cup winning trainer, either with this horse or another one that we're coming to shortly. Jason Patton is the rider, comes out of a lovely gate, barrier 5, 50 kilos. He's won 5 from 32, much maligned racehorse, this fellow. He's not the punter's favourite, but he certainly is John Sadler's favourite horse. And, well, why wouldn't he be after winning the Geelong Cup over 2,400 metres? It was a really good, solid staying effort. He popped him over 6 hurdles that morning. Let's see, I know, because I was out there at Sparrows, and it was a pretty good performance in the Geelong Cup, but it's a big step up here. I know it's a big step up, Pete, but he is my tip in the race, Bohemia. What? Yes, I really think that he's the sort of horse that can get away with the Melbourne Cup. I think he's going to have a lovely run.
You're on drugs.
No,
you are.
No,
I haven't.
You should be after that.
I'm going to take up smoking again, actually.
You've got some serious substance abuse going on there.
Yeah, definitely.
He is my tip.
He's a real Flemington horse, isn't he?
He's a Flemington horse, and Johnny Sadler, I was talking to him yesterday. Johnny Sadler's very happy with this horse, and the Geelong Cup win was a good win, I thought. And I do really think he's going to have a lovely run. Jason Patton, one of his best years. He's going to have a lovely run, nice lightweight. I think he's the horse. OK, we'll see Tuesday night, you blokes, when you buy me a drink. There's no chance of that happening anyway. Number 16, and we go down to figurehead now. This horse is going to have to come from the outside gate. So Opie Bosson has a task here. Kay Lane is the trainer, 50 kilos, has won 5 of 24. And in the Cranbourne Cup was an absolutely magnificent ride by Nashua Willa to win that day. Got right through along the rails, 12th in the Caulfield Cup. Won't be seeing too much of the rails from gate number 2.